Getting blocked. Wow. It is one of the most abrupt, confusing, and honestly painful experiences in the modern world, isn't it? One minute you're connected, and the next, poof, you've just vanished from their digital life. If you're here, you're probably trying to figure out what just happened. So let's get into it and try to make some sense of it all. So, there it is. He blocked you. And now you're just stuck. You're staring at a blank profile, replaying every single text, every last conversation, just wondering, what did I miss? The silence is just deafening, right? And the questions, they just keep swirling. What are you even supposed to do with all this confusion and hurt? That's because it pretty much is. Being blocked isn't just some casual click of a button. It's a statement. It is the digital equivalent of someone slamming a heavy door right in your face, but without a single word of explanation. It's jarring, it's so sudden, and it's designed to just end things, to cut off all communication and leave you on the outside, totally in the dark. Okay, so to even begin to move forward, it can be really helpful to understand what might be going on inside his head. Because here's the secret. This action, this block, is very often less about you and way more about what's going on inside of him. So let's shift our focus for a minute from the what to the why. Now listen closely, because this is probably the most important thing you're going to hear. His decision to block you, it's almost always a reflection of his inability to handle a situation, not a measure of your worth. I'm going to say that again. It's about his coping mechanisms or lack thereof, his emotional capacity, and all the chaos happening inside of him. So why would he do it? Well, the reasons usually fall into three big categories. First up, avoidance. This is the classic move. He's totally overwhelmed by his own emotions. Maybe he's feeling guilty, maybe he's feeling hurt himself. And blocking is just the fastest, easiest escape hatch. No confrontation needed. Second, control. Yeah, sometimes it's a straight-up power play, a way to feel dominant, to make you feel powerless, or maybe even to get a reaction out of you. And third, a weird one, closure. He could be genuinely trying to move on and protecting his own peace. Or, and this one is really interesting, he might block you because he doesn't trust his own feelings for you and needs to create this hard artificial boundary. It's also really important to know the difference between a couple of behaviors here. What he's doing might feel like the silent treatment, which is a very intentional, manipulative act used to punish someone. But a lot of the time, it's actually closer to what the psychologist John Gottman calls stonewalling. This is an unintentional shutdown. It happens when someone gets so emotionally flooded that their brain just short circuits. They disengage not to hurt you, but because they literally cannot cope with the intensity of it all. And here's another angle to consider. I know it feels like a personal attack, but sometimes blocking is a really clumsy, poorly executed attempt at self-preservation. As the therapist Nedra Glover Tawwab says, boundaries are a necessary part of self-care. For him, maybe creating that digital wall was the only way he knew how to protect his own peace of mind. Okay, we've spent enough time in his head. What about you? Why does being left in the dark like this feel so viscerally painful? Well, the answer is actually wired right into our brains. See, our brains are basically story processing machines. They absolutely crave something called narrative completion. We need a beginning, a middle, and an end to feel settled. When someone blocks you, it's like they've ripped the final pages right out of the book. And this unfinished story creates this awful mental static. It's called cognitive dissonance, where your brain just desperately tries to fill in the blanks, often on an endless, painful loop. And there's a name for this obsessive thinking. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. It's our brain's tendency to remember unfinished business way more vividly than things we've actually completed. That's why you can't stop thinking about it. Your brain has flagged this unresolved situation as a high priority, must-solve problem. And how intensely we feel this really depends on our attachment style. For instance, if you have an anxious attachment style, this kind of uncertainty can feel like a genuine threat to your survival. Someone with an avoidance style might try to just rewrite the story and dismiss it all to protect themselves. If you're just organized, you're stuck in this awful loop of craving answers but also being terrified of them. And then there's a secure style, where a person is more likely to accept that they can find peace by creating closure from within. Now, while we're talking about all this pain and confusion, I want to share a piece of data that, well, it kind of puts a different spin on how final this all feels. It's a surprising number, and for some of you, it might even feel a little hopeful. That's right. One poll found that a whopping 85% of exes who block someone will eventually unblock them. Now, what does this tell us? It suggests that blocking is often an impulsive, temporary, knee-jerk reaction. It's an emotional surge, not some final, permanent verdict on you or the relationship. But listen, while that statistic might be interesting, true healing can't depend on waiting around for them to have a change of heart. No way. The real path forward? It's about taking your power back. It's about creating closure for yourself, by yourself. Let's talk about how to actually do that. This right here. This is the fundamental truth you have to internalize. Read it, remember it, write it down. Seeking closure from the person who caused you pain is like asking a thief to help you find your stolen wallet. It just keeps you stuck, waiting for their approval. Healing is an inside job, period. So how do you do it? Here are 3 real, concrete steps you can take. First, write your own ending. I mean it. Get out a journal and tell the whole story from your perspective. Acknowledge what your needs were and how they just weren't being met. Second, grieve the process. Let yourself be sad. Let yourself be angry. Feel all of it without judging yourself for it. And third, create a ritual. Do something symbolic to release the connection. Write them a long letter with everything you ever wanted to say, and then burn it. It sounds dramatic, but this physical act of letting go can be incredibly powerful. At the end of the day, you might never get the why. And the truth is, the why doesn't matter nearly as much as you think it does right now. Chasing those answers just keeps you chained to the past. As the dating coach Sabrina Zohar says, acceptance is a lot stronger than answers. Accepting that it's over, that's where the real power lies. So I want you to remember this. He may have slammed the door, but you are the one who decides when to walk away from it. You are holding the pen. You get to decide when this chapter ends and when your new one begins. That power has been in your hands the entire time. So what will you choose?